Hey Warriors fans, Scott Warras here, taking a step back during the football bye week to look at 26 years of Warriors football. And there is nobody more qualified to reminisce, to take a stroll down memory lane than the only person who has been here for every season of Warriors football. It is Mike Fossum. Thanks for doing this, Mike.
Absolutely,
We have
my
never
pleasure.
talked like this in this type of official venue.
It's pretty formal for us, Scott, I must say.
I hope you're not too intimidated,
I'm not intimidated
by the whole setup
Yeah,
of the
no,
media center.
No, I appreciate you doing it.
Have you had a chance, and I realize you're in the middle of the season right now, at any point before the year, maybe during this bye week, have you had a chance to just kind of step back and realize the depth and breadth of Warriors football, and you having been here every step of the way now as we commemorate 25 seasons?
I have. This summer was unique. We planned the 25th kind of reunion festivities, and many thanks to the whole college and development and alumni and everybody that put a lot of time into that. But part of that was us reaching out to our alums, and through that process we were texting and calling and interacting with these guys, and that was like much of July. And kind of the reality of that is, wow, some of these guys they're old. They got families and kids and jobs, and the reality of, yeah, that was 25 years ago, Coach. And so yeah, that kind of really forced that to happen without question, and that was fun.
So let's go back. Let's go way back.
Oh boy.
Because for fans who don't know, 1999 is the first official start of Warriors football, but there were no games. There was no schedule. You guys had a team. You had practices. But even before 99, what brought you to Wisconsin Lutheran College? What was the connection, and what ultimately cinched it for you?
Sure. Well, I played football in Minnesota at St. Olaf College. Ended up coaching there for 3 years after graduating. After that, I took a grad assistant job at South Dakota State University, Brookings, South Dakota. Great school, great program, had a lot of fun.
Jackrabbits.
The Jackrabbits, national champs.
That's right.
Our head coach there had interacted with Dennis Miller, the head coach here that started the program, on the staff at Northern State University. And that was the connection. I finished my graduate assistant role there. My guy, John Stiglmeyer, awesome human being, reached out to Dennis Miller, another awesome human being, and the connection was made, and this was the next home.
Did you have any trepidation? I mean, hey, we're starting a football program in the greater Milwaukee area. Come on up and be part of it. I mean, the decision-making process, were you nervous? What were you feeling as this new adventure kind of began?
Well, there was excitement, right? That's a pretty unique opportunity. There's also unemployment. And it was definitely in need of a job. But I think Wisconsin Lutheran, once they came to campus and met certainly with Coach Miller, and then leadership, everybody from Skip Noon to Paul Knippel to President Greenfield at that time, just wonderful human beings. And they had a great plan and a great vision. And what an opportunity for a young guy to be a part of, to grow this thing.
So you're the first member of Coach Miller's first staff, and you've held the Director of Football Ops title pretty much from day one up until the current time. I guess just take us through the day-to-day, 98, 99, when it comes to football ops. I mean, things that we probably all take for granted now, you were piecemealing equipment by equipment, piece of equipment, literally by piece of equipment, right?
We did literally build this piece by piece. Everything from, I know Scott and Ed, you guys will remember the press box at Valley Field was literally constructed out of plywood the day of the game, I believe, to get it done. We're transporting play clocks in the back of station wagons and minivans to be able to play football. We're riding yellow school buses out to Rainbow Park to practice, where I'm lining a field quite crookedly, I might add, just before practice. Everything along the way. So many firsts, but also so many must-dos, just have to get done. And you could have a great plan, but all of a sudden, hey, who's taking care of that? Oh boy, better be me, better be us. And we found a way to do it.
Okay, so 1999, like you said, you're practicing at Rainbow Park, which is a county park here in the Milwaukee area. You're playing games down in the Menominee Valley at what is now Marquette's Valley Field. That team those guys who practiced in 1999 but knew there would be no season, there are no games to be played, but you just practiced. How did you motivate? What can you say about that collection of guys who did all that without the quote-unquote payoff of Saturday?
It was an impressive group of young men. I mean, they literally bought into a dream of something they may never see come to fruition. This is long before name, image, and likeness deals, so we couldn't even pay them, obviously, but they were out there having fun. They were here at the college. Many of them were here prior to football starting. About half were, half weren't. But they bought into what we were doing and what we were building, and it's because of them that we did get to the point of having a first competitive season. All we did that year was scrimmage, one time against each other, barely. I think we barely had 22 people able to scrimmage on that day, and we made a big deal. We had a big barbecue, and a lot of faculty and staff came out, and it was fun. But quite a commitment out of those guys. That first year is very, very impressive. Mm-hmm.
Those early years, talk about the recruiting challenge, or what was the message to future Warriors? What was the catalyst from the recruiting standpoint to get kids to come?
Well, when you're recruiting early on, it's pretty simple. You can guarantee they'll all start. So that's
guaranteed starting job. That's not bad.
Yeah, some may do that still today, but not us. But they really bought into what WLC was about, as an institution, a Christian institution, a great academic school, just a family environment. They bought into the program being a part of that. And Coach Miller's vision and leadership at that time was perfect, I think, in that startup role to get it going. And people wanted to be a part of that, yeah. and they did.
September 2nd, 2000. Do you remember that date rather significantly?
I do.
Warriors go to Rockford, their first ever game. So this is year 2 of the program, but they're finally going to play games. It's the first game. You go down to Rockford, you shut them out 14-0. What is one of your top 2 or 3 memories from that Saturday in particular?
Well, clearly the win. Yeah. I mean, it meant a lot to go through those couple years and just kind of piece this thing together and then get rewarded with a victory. That's a big deal. But the funny stuff along the way is probably more important. First of all, it was a hot day. Mm-hmm. Our headsets broke due to excessive sweat in some cases from coaches. Mark Sipple and I, defensive coordinator at the time, great friend of mine, Mark and I were carrying I believe a step ladder of some sort to either mount headset device or film from an end zone above a goalpost. All those little things along the way that you'd never have to really do now. Mm-hmm. But the fun stories, and then ultimately the fact that our first touchdown looked like a hook and ladder, but it really wasn't. All those things went into getting a win, and I think that the best memory, just the end of it, the pure joy on the kids' faces and on the coaches' faces and the families, and that was a special moment.
You remember that ride home in particular?
Absolutely. It was definitely a joyous ride home. In those days, we typically stopped at McDonald's and picked up quarter pounders and chicken sandwiches, and guys enjoyed that and the camaraderie, the whole deal.
Do you still do that now? After rides, after road games? The bus pulls up to McDonald's. Maybe you can't do that anymore.
McDonald's, maybe not. But now Jimmy John's, Chick-fil-A, pizza, things like that. Yeah.
So games are being played, seasons are coming and going. I want to talk about the venues because, we talked in the broadcast recently with Coach Miller, with Coach Tresky, about the having Robbie Stadium and having that facility. It's second nature now, and guys don't know any different. But you mentioned Valley Field for a couple years. You played home games at Wisconsin Lutheran High School. You played a home game at New Berlin Eisenhower High School.
Homecoming game
Mm-hmm. At Ike. The challenges that the venues presented, as opposed to the luxury of having your own stadium. I mean, how do you quantify that?
It's a challenge. I mean, you couldn't even really practice at those venues, right? And the entire game day operation, everything from sports information to you name it, to coaching it, to players getting there, was remote. You drove in, you set up, and you played a game. I think that starting at Valley Field was interesting. Old school AstroTurf downtown, next to the casino. quite, quite a place to start a Christian football program, right? But we had a blast. Good memories there. Some funny things happened behind the scenes, which we'll leave out of this.
Fair enough.
But we did the best we could in that environment. I think growing that, getting a little closer, playing at Wisconsin Lutheran High School, thanks for our partnership there, was phenomenal. We had some big wins there. Yeah. Absolutely, some pivotal wins in the program as we built and got to the point where we were competitive. And then obviously opening up historic Robbie was awesome. Finally to have a home for our kids, for our staff, for our fans, for our faculty, everybody, a place to go, a place of our own was tremendous.
You start out in the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the MIAA, the oldest continuous athletic conference in the country. I mean, there are some Big Ten schools now who once upon a time played in the MIAA. That's WLC's first conference affiliation. I mean, you talk about being thrown right into the fire, made for some long road trips to Michigan every Saturday or every other Saturday, but big picture, the challenge and to be in those venues, I imagine in some ways, maybe you didn't recognize it then, was rewarding in a way.
It was. It's a privilege to be a part of a league like that with that much history. It's also it's tough competition, and I think for our program it really formed, I think, just a competitive nature of understanding where we could get to and where we wanted to be. People from the college would come over and see it. Administrators, faculty, obviously our coaches. And seeing it done at that level told us what we wanted to get to, and I think helped us get there. There were challenges. Those were some really good football programs over there. Those were some really long bus trips. But through it all, I think we grew as a program. Probably just took us a little longer than we wanted to.
Yeah, some of those programs had been around for close to 100 years, and then here's Wisconsin Lutheran in its true infancy. Just kind of the juxtaposition is interesting. Was there a moment, was there a game when you thought, we're here, we made it? Because for a long time early, you're building. I mean, you're building tradition, you're building a roster, you're building roster depth. Was there a point, was there a season where you guys thought, we're here, we made it, now let's go?
Sure. There were a lot of points, I think, to that. I remember playing at Hope College, and Hope was a perennial champ in the MIAA. And we'd had quite a few contests with them that hadn't been competitive. And we came in, I don't remember the year, I'd have to look back in the record books, but there was a year where that was a one-score game in the fourth. And we're there on that field standing toe-to-toe. And we didn't come out with a victory that day, but I remember shaking, the head coach was Dean Krabs. And we shook his hand, and he kind of gave us that, you're there. You're toe-to-toe with us, you're competitive. And coming from a guy like that who'd won as much as he had in that league, that meant a lot. I think we could see it, but hearing it that way was a big deal as well.
2014, now as a member of the NAC, the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference, the team wins their first conference championship. What do you remember of 2014? What did that symbolize in the grand scheme especially?
Well, it's a reward for the journey, right? I mean, a lot of people worked their tails off to get there. We had a lot of great coaches through, a lot of great players through. And to finally get to that point, I think meant a lot to all of us. Couldn't have happened against a better opponent in Powder Blue from across the way. And getting after those guys in week 10 on a cold day in a tight game, that's a good moment.
We're going to do 5 questions in just a second, but I'm curious, I'm asking you to kind of look back now 2.5 decades, the biggest change that you've seen in Division III college football, and I realize there are, seismic changes in college athletics right now in the last couple of years and continue. What do you see here closer to home? Biggest changes in the sport as it impacts WLC or the conference as a whole?
Sure. I think the game itself will continue to evolve. How you coach it, schemes, all those different things. But the recruitment has really changed drastically in the last 5 years. the level of athlete competing in our league right now is substantially ahead of what it would have been 10 years ago. And that's both fun and challenging, right? You got to go find those guys now. And we've been able to, thankfully, to get that done. And I think the recruiting, the use of social media, all those things, and just the ability to find kids, I think that's going to be the most rapid change moving ahead.
Just out of curiosity, so 25, 26 years ago, when you're recruiting and you're trying to reach out to kids, what were the methods and mechanisms then versus now? Phone calls and letters, I guess.
A lot of letters, believe it or not. Yeah, you would send real letters.
I say, but even email was kind of in its infancy.
Email had just kind of started with some of that. Yeah, a lot of in-personal visits and a lot of non-cell phone calls, believe it or not. Calling home phone, and that was unique.
I imagine, though, still the personal call or the in-home visit, even now today with all the advancements, that still makes the biggest impact.
Absolutely, and I think that's what represents what we are
Right.
as a program and as a school, is that personal touch, and that'll never change, for sure. Identifying and locating these kids is changing, but selling who we are and what we are and getting them here, that'll never change.
All right, a little walk down memory lane. That is also the theme of our 5 questions for Mike Fossum, who has been here for all 26 years of Warriors football. Okay, here we go, Foss. Number 1, the one play that still brings a smile to your face today and probably always will.
I would say the icing play of that 2014 championship game. It was a check with us play offensively. It was a counter, honestly, and we debated going to the right, then to the left, and then ultimately back to the left, all at the line of scrimmage. And I believe the back was Josh Helton, and he got just enough for a hook sliding first down inbounds to keep the clock running, and I'll never forget it.
The game tape that you'd pop in and watch long after you're retired, if that was the play, is there a game where you'd put that DVD, VHS, thumb drive, whatever in and just watch it from start to finish?
I think we threw away most of the tapes.
We didn't digitize it all?
There may
It's not
still
on a
be
thumb drive
there may
somewhere?
be some CDs burned
CDs,
somewhere.
yeah. DVDs, yeah.
We just did it the other day. We were looking at a highlight of like 06, 07, and just pick a year. For me, it's fun to look at those guys and just remember who they were and now realize who they've become.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily about the plays or that game for me. It's about who they were, who those kids were, and the memories that go along with it.
Okay, I have to ask this one because I have to ask the other side of the coin. So don't get mad at me. The game that still sticks in your craw, that one that you'd love to have that one back.
How much time do we have?
Pick one.
You know, in coaching, you get in a lot of one-score games,
Yeah.
and you get in a lot of tough situations. And I would tell you, on the road in Benedictine, I can't name the year. There was a controversial turnover call late. I'll leave it at that. And I won't forget that one. It was a fumble, a great back, carrying the ball. Whistle should have blown, was into the sideline. Somehow the ball comes loose.
We'll move
I'll
on.
stop talking. We're
We'll
going
move
there
on.
in a couple of weeks, Scott.
Number 4. Give me the trait or the aspect of each head coach you appreciated most. I'm going to give you a little word association here because you've worked now with all 3 head coaches. Dennis Miller.
Coach Miller was a perfect leader to start the program. He's certainly one of the best men I've been around. Husband, father, leader, I think he was very thorough in his approach. He was very genuine in his approach, and he gave this guy a great opportunity, and I'm thankful for it.
Ben Murphy.
Ben Murphy. I recruited Ben. I coached Ben. Working side by side with Ben for a number of years was just an awesome experience. Having him serve as a head coach was tremendous to watch. I get one word, is that it? One name association with Murph. Murph's a go-getter, incredible energy, and just a dynamic guy.
Current head coach Eric Tresky.
Coach Tresky I also recruited and coached, and actually there's a lot of parallels between both Tresk and Murph. I think Eric brings a faith component to this program that's just fantastic, and his leadership's been great, and I enjoy working with him every day.
You know, I'm going to take a little detour here for a second. The fact that all three head coaches in the history of the program, obviously you worked with Coach Miller, and then the next two, you, as you said, you recruited, you coached. It's a unique perspective you have that I imagine a lot of assistants, maybe every assistant, we could research this maybe, across the country don't have, in that you now coach with guys you recruited. I mean, that's a fascinating dynamic.
It really is. It's a tremendous blessing as I look at it, you know, because young people that you developed a relationship with when they're 17 or 18 are now your boss, which tells you they turned out really well.
Yeah.
And sharing in the highs and lows of just their personal lives and obviously their professional lives here. What a ride that is.
All right, number 5. What does 2024 Mike Fossum offer as advice to the 1999 Mike Fossum when he first stepped on campus? If you saw 99 Fossum pull up in the parking lot, wherever he was, and you greet him, what do you say? What's the piece of advice you give him?
Be patient, work hard, keep your sense of humor, and things will be all right.
And the bonus question, what word,
Oh boy.
best describes 25 years of Warriors football?
Thankfulness for me. It's been the lion's share of my professional life has been here, and being trusted with the opportunity to get this thing started and being able to see it to this point, I'm thankful. I really am for that opportunity.
And I'm thankful for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Fossum, nobody better to give a retrospective on the history of Warriors football, the man who's been there every step of the way. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. Thanks, everybody.